We have to take podcasts from a golf course. A little steamy here as we record this on a Thursday, early evening rather, from Burning Tree Country Club in Decatur. I'm Carl Prather, producer Pat. He's MIA. No, he's not MIA. He's back in the studio. We were out at the golf course earlier throughout the week for our 60th Dyken Spirit of America Golf Classic. So for those that are in North Alabama, kind of a big community event for a lot of our members here at this golf course. You got collegiate golfers, you got amateur golfers, you got a ton of folks out here competing just for a really, really good cause, all raising money for nonprofits, of course, North Alabama and the Tennessee Valley, and within the Yellowhammer State for that matter as well. But yeah, we wanted to get out here and still do a little podcasting for a few minutes here. Listen, I don't golf, but I want to golf. That's the deal. But I promised myself like 45, I'm 43, 45 is when I'll start kind of picking up the golf clubs there to golf a little bit. Maybe I can get producer Pat to go out there and hack it around a little bit with me so we can kind of start our journey together. But yeah, it's been fun out here. It's steamy. Listen, I love the heat and I love the humidity, but man, it came and smacked you right in the face. Earlier today, he kind of got in the low 90s, I believe. But man, it was good to get out, kind of get out of the office a little bit, and what's better than to do a job that you're out and about talking sports. So we truly appreciate that. So listen, before we kind of get into just a little sports talk, like, subscribe, our Take After Take podcast. It's on Apple iTunes right now. It's on Spotify as well. You can find that there where podcasts are available. You can also find it on our 48 Sports Zone app. We have that available as we record this each and every week as well. And then, of course, we have a news spot to find extended coverage and content from WAFF. It's our 48 Plus app. You can find that on Amazon Fire, Apple TV, or Roku. You just go and download it, and it's there at your fingertips. It's that 48 Plus app, and that's available right now. So, of course, we're here at the golf course. Day 2, they got a couple more rounds left here, but we had discussed it on our Take After Take show that'll air later on each and every week as well. But for some reason, at this point of the year, you gotta have a lot of kind of football talk because there's not a lot going on within the world of college football besides chatter. Obviously, we know the Brendan Sorsby deal has kind of hit its finality, right? Brendan Sorsby attempted to apply for the NFL supplemental draft, was denied by the National Football League this week, and Brendan, unfortunately, now will have to wait to the 2027 NFL draft to hear his name potentially called for the draft after being denied the opportunity to be in the supplemental draft. If the supplemental draft were to happen, it'd been the first one since 2019. NFL hasn't had any of those in quite some time. So, listen, final time I want to talk about Brendan Sorsby. Wish the young man nothing but the best moving forward in his career, but it kind of boils down to this, right? You know, it's one thing if you want to kind of play college football. It's another thing, obviously, for gambling. 90,000. We know the numbers. Betting on your own team where you were in Indiana. But the biggest thing that I've always kind of wondered regarding this situation with Brendan is you have somebody that has what he deemed, and I'm just paraphrasing here, an addiction or a disease dealing with gambling. And if you're Texas Tech, for me, whether you're administration, you're president, athletes, the whole university infrastructure as a whole, when you want to embrace that young man and help him in his journey to rehabilitate himself and find a way to better himself so that he may not have some of the issues that he's had when it's come to gambling, that's my biggest concern. And the big thing for me is that why did he have to play football? So I think we got to sift through the reasons why this was important to play football. With the all-important return on investment when you hand a young man over what has been reported, $5 million to come and play quarterback for the Red Raiders. Red Raiders are going to be fine. They're going to be a really good football team, probably going to be projected to win the Big 12 or at least at the upper echelon part of that when we get into media days for them here in the coming weeks. But, yeah, it's a sad situation all the way around, but ultimately I think the right thing had been done. You know, Brendan has to pay his penance and have to sit out and prepare for his next journey. But even when he goes to the National Football League and hits these pre-draft workouts and he hits these interviews and these meetings with GMs and player personnel and front office and owners, there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked about this, what has occurred over the last 6 to 8 months regarding Brennan and the gambling situation. So once again, wishing nothing but the best for the young man. Listen, regardless of how you feel about it, he's still a human being. You hope that he can learn from those mistakes and move forward and potentially have a very, very successful National Football League career. So there's that. As I mentioned early on, college football just right around the corner. And here's what I love. All the magazines and preseason rankings and all of the fodder kind of ramps up a little bit more. We got SEC Media Days coming up in July. That'll be in Tampa, Florida. We'll have you covered there for the week-long event there. All 16 teams will be in the house. But one of my favorite magazines over the last decade plus has been the Phil Steele magazine. And for me, I've grown up having magazines at my fingertips, physical copies. And when I was a kid, the Sporting News was the big college football magazine. Athlon and Lindy's were still around as well. I actually saw an ESPN college football magazine, strangely enough, at a department store or a box store earlier this week. And I was like, wow, ESPN's back in the college football business with magazines. So, all right, bing, I get it, whatever. It's all good. But I think a lot of people have kind of, if you're a sicko of college football like yours truly, you kind of get into this Phil Steele magazine. And I was looking on my phone because I had that opportunity to go get it. I'm going to probably go get it this weekend. But Phil Steele has his top 10 heading into the college football season. I just want to read these off to you just to see, what your thoughts were as you listen or you're watching here on our podcast on YouTube as well. He has Ohio State number 1, University of Texas number 2, Notre Dame 3, Oregon number 4, Georgia number 5, Indiana, the reigning national champions, at number 6, University of Miami at number 7, Texas Tech there in number 8. Ole Miss comes in at 9, and LSU coming in at a number 10. I don't think that anyone would have any issue with Ohio State being number 1 relative to what they return. Maybe a few question marks here and there. But here's what I would like to say when it comes to kind of dealing with rankings and when you're looking at teams that could potentially win a college football national championship, which means obviously regular season, conference championships this year, 12-team playoff, navigating that to reach the summit in the world of college football, and that's the national championship. I look for teams that have the least amount of questions from a preseason standpoint moving forward as you head into week 1 or week 0 of the college football season. So if you think about Ohio State, you say to yourself, what are the positives? Well, Julian Sand is a heck of a start. Bo Jackson really came on as a running back late in the year, really running the football, physical, hard, with vision. And then you say to yourself, defensively, what do they return? They lost a lot. But you know, Caleb Downs is a big reason why they had a lot of success last year and reached the college football playoff a season ago. But if you kind of add Jeremiah Smith, I think you say to yourself, of all of the teams and the level that Ohio State has played at, you say to yourself, if you look at what they've been able to accomplish since maybe that last loss against Michigan, I've seen an improved physicality from this team as a program. I've seen kind of a mindset that we can't be beat, if that makes any sense. Credit to Miami last year. Obviously a fantastic team. Really, really good defensively. Now, I will say we can all kind of attest, and Ohio State fans can say the same thing. Offensive line was a problem. A major problem. We need to know what that looks like. So there is a question mark there. But as far as some of your other pieces and maybe trying to piecemeal together an offensive line to at least get you through and navigate through a Big Ten schedule, I don't have a problem with Ohio State being number 1, according to Phil Steele. As we go down to number 2, I think the one team that I think everyone may just immediately think consensus-wise is the number 1 team, and I thought this 3 months ago, is the Texas Longhorns. A lot of bells and whistles. And there's some really good bells and whistles. Hollywood Smothers, Cam Coleman, Arch Manning, Colin Simmons. You got some dudes across the board for this Texas Longhorn team. And Steve Sarkisian. This may be his most talented team that he's had. But the flip side to that is, I mentioned it during our Take After Take show that airs each and every week on our 40 Plus app. You know, Texas is a group that, if we can just use an imaginative thought process here, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Bentley truck, Porsche, really nice vehicles, right? But sometimes if you got to go from point A to point B, sometimes you got to have the dually truck, or you got to have the F-350 or the Lariat. You got to have something to maybe kind of get you through the mud if it's raining. You got to get from point A to point B. I need to see if they are equipped to do that. Yeah, I know they got a lot of talent. I know Steve Sarkisian can scheme it up better than anyone, arguably in all of college football from a play calling standpoint. You got a returning quarterback that has played exceptionally well the second half of the year. Probably that Mississippi State game was probably the turning point. But I just need to see more from that program to see if they're able to just kick the door down and win a national championship. I don't think anyone doesn't believe that they're probably going to reach the college football playoff, even maybe a 9-3. But 9-3 is your basement. Ceiling is 9 wins plus, right, for this program. I think just what maybe some may have a little pause for cause with is just the fact that we need to see that physicality. Is that going to continue? Is that going to get better? Can I depend on you? Can I count on this team to have a rock fight and come away with a victory in a rock fight? So, listen, as great as they played down the stretch last year, don't forget, Arch Manning had to play exceptionally well in that Mississippi State game. There was a punt return in that contest that turned the tide. Otherwise, they may have lost to Mississippi State. You think about a game against Kentucky on the road, tight contest down the line. Texas A&M was so, a lot of talent. And no one will ever not say that the Texas Longhorns heading into this year doesn't have that. But it's a wait and see for me. They're going to win some games. They're going to win a lot of games. But some of those championship medal type scenarios, I just want to see if that can come to fruition from a physicality standpoint, lines of scrimmage, rock fight type games. And if those guys are equipped to do that, so we shall see. Phil Steele has the Irish of Notre Dame, number 3. Okay, so for those 7.5 people that listen to this podcast, you may or may not know that I may have an allegiance, may have a affinity for that program in South Bend. And I'm 43 years old, and I must say this may be the first time in my natural life that this may be the most equipped team to win a national championship. And I think college football fans or Notre Dame fans would say to you, yeah, you hear that all of the time, but once again, I go back to what I was mentioning about least amount of questions. And you start looking across Notre Dame's roster with just the returners, 6 to 8 guys that are on the offensive line that have played in some capacity. Running backs may be the biggest question when you lose 2 first-round picks in last year's NFL draft. But you have one young man that played a pretty significant minutes as a freshman early on in his career. Another, and Nolan James, that people think that could really help them. So I get it. That may be a question mark. Wide receiver may be a question mark because there's some unproven guys there. Jaden Greathouse aiming to come back after battling hamstring injuries throughout last year, but really came on, of course, as a freshman, had some big games in that college football playoff run for the Irish 2 seasons ago. But if you just look at Notre Dame's roster as a whole, offensive line, check. Defensive line, check. Linebackers, arguably one of, if not the best unit in the country. Secondary, arguably the best unit in the country. They have the best cornerback in the country, arguably, in Laker. But you look on the other side, quarterbacks, C.J. Carr returns. You have a guy that has played an entire year, had his ups and downs, but is poised to have a monster year for Marcus Freeman and the Irish. So you just look across the board, and just from a paper standpoint, you say to yourself, okay, yeah, if so many of these pundits and college football analysts believe that they're a top 3, top 4 team, it's because of kind of the least amount of questions. And then you couple, we could just not even dance around this. The schedule's terrible. Like, it's atrocious. Outside of BYU on the road in Provo, and outside a trip in November from the Miami Hurricanes headed to South Bend, Indiana. I mean, how Notre Dame is not 10 wins basement, worst case scenario would be the disappointment of the year. don't see how they're not 11-1 worst case scenario, either splitting or just going undefeated. Then you couple the fact that, of course, they did not make the college football playoff last year. So, listen, they'll never say it, but you and I know. If you kind of feel like that you've been snubbed one way or another, you're going to say to yourself, we're going to make sure we leave no doubt and rub it in a little bit. And that probably is going to start against Wisconsin at Lambeau Field coming up, their first game of the season. Number 4 on Phil Steele's list is the Oregon Ducks. And they may have the best offensive line in all of defensive line in all of college football, honestly. And this may be Dan Lanning's best unit potentially. I don't know, but I do know that when you have guys like Tian Gray that had to leave and go to Notre Dame, and a couple of the guys that are transferred out of that program because of just the quality depth they've had at that position, that tells you a lot about those guys. Bear Alexander, SEC fans know about him, playing in Georgia, of course, played in Oregon, USC. You say to yourself, just guys of that nature, you say to yourself, like, is that going to be an issue? I don't know. That is yes or no. So that's the biggest question. So I think they're going to do fantastic as well, and we shall see if they find a way with Dante Moore and some cornerbacks that they have a really good team and across the board. But once again, it's kind of like that Texas scenario. You have to say to yourself, like, when is Oregon going to break the screw? For the last decade plus, they won a lot of games. I think everyone in college football understands how good Dan Lanning is. With all of that said, we're still waiting for them to kind of break through. Do I believe they will with Dan Lanning? I do. But sooner rather than later would probably continue to help and enhance that notion that some fans have in the back of their minds that Oregon relative to the notoriety they have, whether it's the program, the brand, and the games that they've won regular season, anything of significance, in trying to win a national championship is maybe kind of what's just eluding the group in Eugene. So we shall see with Oregon and the Ducks, the Georgia Bulldogs at number 5. We have not heard anything about Georgia whatsoever this year in the offseason, which is wild. And they arguably may have the best roster within the top 10 of Phil Steele or in really the country, if you think about it. Offensive line has a chance to be really good. We know what Frazier does at running back. He can hold on to improve his ball security issues. I think he did as we headed to the tail end of the year. I think he's going to have a really big year. No one even talks about Gunner Stockton. I don't know. All that dude does is win football games. It may not be flashy. Yeah, he may not have the NFL prototypical arm. He may not have the height, weight measurables that NFL scouts and player personnel guys salivate over, but he can win. And he wins a lot of games. And he's a steady hand for Kirby Smart and company. And he will continue to just win games for Georgia. Who's to say, with a bunch of names that you may not have heard of, that this program on the defensive side of the ball doesn't, it's lofty, not match kind of what some of the national championship groups or in the realm of that heading into this season, that they can't be that. Once again, straight dogs over the years in the early 20s, I get it. But however, who's to say that doesn't happen? So very interesting to see where they stand. Very interested to see how they start in Athens. But make no bones about it, Kirby Smart will have this group ready to rock and roll from the jump. And trust me, they fear no one, and they don't care who they have to play. They'll show up and they'll compete. You wouldn't expect anything else from a Kirby Smart-led college football program. And then you have the reigning national champions at number 6. I guess if you don't believe or didn't believe after 2 years ago when they reached the college football playoff and lose to Notre Dame, and then they reel off an undefeated year and beat your favorite team's favorite team that grew to a national championship, heading into this year, what else do you need to see? Josh Hoover comes over from TCU. I love Marsh that came from Michigan State. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. And there's going to be a bunch of guys that you may not have heard of that are going to play exceptionally well. They're going to be fundamentally sound. They're talented, and they're going to be physical. Deal with it. And if you still want to continue to bet against Kirk Cignetti and his group in Bloomington, have at it. I'm not going to do that. I think they're going to be another playoff contender, and I think they're going to make a deep run. And if they end up playing in the final game in January, you should not be surprised. Should be an exciting time, and I know fans are excited in Bloomington and IU as they prepare for the upcoming college football season. Number 7, University of Miami, the runner-up in last year's national championship game. Darian Menza comes over in place of Josh Wise, the quarterback, Carson Beck. Son, he's got to my brain there. Carson Beck's gone. In comes Darian Menza from Duke. We know he can pitch it around the field, and Malachi Toney is as good as any in college football, and to be a true freshman to have the impact that he had with this group was unbelievable. Defensively, they're going to be great. They got some interior defensive linemen that you may have seen flash in the national championship game that I think are going to have big years as well. But they're right there. Offensive line, they lose everything. But what we know about a Mario Cristobal group, with his acumen being the offensive line, safe to say that they will regroup pretty quickly. I think they're going to have a true freshman there that's probably going to start on the offensive line, one of the highly touted players there. Young man's name didn't come to my mind that quickly, but from all the indications in preseason, he has an opportunity to just roll the ball out there and see if he can play, and he'll protect the quarterback there on the edge on either left tackle or right tackle, but we shall see. But, the roster is set as such that, within the ACC, if you're not a Louisville, an SMU, maybe a Clemson, maybe Virginia, then you got to like Miami's chances heading into this upcoming year. And what may be outside of their conference, the biggest game could be of the year, 2 undefeated, with Miami on the road taking on Notre Dame in November. Going to be a little chilly, to say the least, if you are headed to South Bend, especially for the young men in Coral Gables headed up north to the Midwest for sure. Coming in at number 8 is the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And, of course, we've just mentioned the aforementioned Brendan Sorsby. Will Hammond expected to be the starter there. He's still returning from a knee injury. We'll see if he comes back and is ready to help Joey McGuire coming in. The roster's good. Once again, they're going to be favored in the majority of their games, but more importantly, favored to win the Big 12 and head back to the playoff. That's why you get a Brendan Sorsby, to kind of solidify and anchor that position because of all of the things that you have around that are playoff caliber to make a deep run in the playoffs. So we'll see with Texas Tech. I think Joey McGuire can kind of put the Sorsby situation away, even though he'll be asked about it during media days in the first few weeks of the college football season. He still has a pretty darn good football team from all the indications that can potentially make a deep run heading into the college football season. Ole Miss coming in at number 9 in Phil Steele's College Football Magazine preseason top 10. And listen, what a run last year to reach the semifinal, to find a way to have Trinidad Chambers back in the fold, the best running back in the SEC and arguably the country, Kewan Lacey. Offensive line is good, but overall the roster pretty solid, right? But it does help when you have somebody like Trinidad that can really help you there. And of course the back end, pretty good quality defensive backs there as well. And then in number 10, if you look, it's Louisiana State or LSU. You may have heard of this guy, Lane Kiffin. He been a little popular in the headlines heading into the end of the regular season and heading into the offseason. Yes, the LSU is going to be talented. Got a lot of guys, I like to say, difference makers and dudes on paper. Jordan Seaton at tackle. Of course, Sam Levitt at quarterback. It's just going to be interesting to see how he meshes all of this together in Baton Rouge year one. You pay somebody $93 million, folks. You expect a lot of results quickly, and we shall see if that is indeed the case for Lane as he prepares for his first season in Death Valley and LSU. Listen, we know he's going to be successful. Then, that's not even a given. He's going to score points. They're going to be able to scheme you up, and he has guys like Travis Green at tight end, wide receivers that are going to be really, really good as well. And I think they're going to run the football, like Durham and the other Hornberry, like, they are good. And we did not see that in the previous regime of them running the football. I think it would be advantageous for them to do as such, to continue to help open up what Lane likes to do. And I think he'll do that. And I think LSU is going to be successful. I don't know how successful they'll be, but what I will tell you is that there'll be a marked improvement from a manufacturing offense standpoint that could potentially, in turn, come up with wins. Defensively, want to see what they look like there. I think the back end's going to be great. We know 40 in the middle of the defense is going to be great. And then what they're going to look like defensively on the defensive line, we'll see. They're going to be kind of asking some impact freshmen to kind of help there as well, to make their presence known as well in Baton Rouge. So, yeah, listen, college football is right up around the corner. Super excited for that. Super excited for SEC Media Days. And we're close. I know it's the dog days of summer. 4th of July is right around the corner, a week from Saturday. So I know everyone is excited about that. Producer Pat and I will attempt to try to link up and do a podcast next week, as well as we head into 4th of July. We're going to talk food. College football game is going to come out next week as well. I'm a big college football video game player. Have had every copy of this game since the inception in 1998. I had the PlayStation 1. Obviously, we got kids, you got a wife, you got life, you got parents, and you're a parent, and you got bills to pay. You don't have as much time as you had back in college. Let's just say that. But I still try to play on my downtime and kind of unwind and kind of get away from the realities of the world playing that game. So I'm super excited for that new iteration of that to come out. EA Sports College Football 27, that'll be released next week. We'll talk a little bit about that, have a little fun with that next week in a podcast leading into the 4th of July holiday. So once again, a really quick podcast, just a quick talk as I'm here at this golf course. Sun is setting and feels great out here. Felt like a bazillion degrees earlier today, but been fun to be out here for sure. I just want to say it one more time: like, subscribe, take after take. Our podcast is available right now. Apple iTunes, Spotify. You can find us on the 48 Sports Zone app as well. You can find us on YouTube. Also, on the 48 Sports Zone app, you can find the video version of this and the same on YouTube as well, and our 48 Plus app. And then, of course, the audio version is on Apple iTunes and Spotify. Hey, look, like, subscribe, send us a 5-star review as well. Just tell us what you think. We appreciate all 7.5 of you listening across North Alabama and beyond. But excited to continue to keep this going, and as we head into another college football year.